For 10 straight years, one man ordered pizza every single day from the same place, until one day he vanished. No calls, no messages, no orders. And when the employees decided to check on him, what they found behind his door shook them to the core. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The majority of the American population consumes at least one slice of pizza a month. It seems like almost every American is a fan of pizza. Pizza is a favorite food for many around the world. It is cheesy, delicious, and just about everywhere. The addicting combination of delicious crust, sweet tomato sauce, and melted cheese makes it one of the most addictive foods. Its cheesy feel and the delicious crust can hardly ever be stayed away from. 48-year-old Kirk Alexander from Salem, Oregon, is a huge lover of pizza. Alexander hardly goes a day without placing his routine order for pizza, such that he spent 10 years eating Domino's pizza. Suddenly, Alexander decided he was not going to order. The workers were confused and wholly taken by surprise. He just decided to be a loyal customer. His absence bothered a lot of the employees. His absence was noticed among them. The general manager, Sarah Fuller, said, "He orders every day, every other day. All the employees are always eager to get his order when it comes up on the screen, and they are immediately assured it is Alexander's pizza order." He's what they could refer to as a regular. Not making a mistake or being rude to customers, her position at Domino's was still quite delicate. Fuller started as a delivery driver. She first met Alexander while delivering his standard pizza order. One thing was strange, though. He never left the house. It was then she got to know that it was due to a severe health challenge he had in the past. Fuller got acquainted with Alexander in 2009. At that time, she had newly gotten her job at Domino's Pizza. They went the extra mile for their loyal customer, Alexander. They found his home address and sent 2 employees to check on him. After speaking to several neighbors, they started to learn more about Alexander. His neighbors said he hardly talks to anyone, and when they knock on his door, he answers very seldom. Despite this, one of his neighbors explained that while Alexander maintained his distance from people, he was a decent guy. He was always known to reward them with tips for their hard work. Most of the delivery men called him their favorite. They said no one ever treated them quite as well as Alexander did. To many customers, delivery men are next to invisible, but Alexander naturally had conversations with them. Although the staff were worried about his whereabouts, they soon concluded he was probably on vacation. Fuller explained that Alexander kept a cordial relationship with all the delivery men. Soon Alexander would order, and things would go back to how they used to be. Strangely, though, his order did not come through for the next several days. The staff started to feel troubled and unsettled. They had their hopes up, but things weren't going how they expected them to be. The team started to question where he was. Something was definitely wrong somewhere, but what could it be? After days without an order from Alexander, something was definitely up. The employees had busied themselves attending to other customers, but Alexander's disappearance was weighing on everyone's mind. Fuller had checked the system earlier that day and confirmed it was 11 days since anyone last saw Alexander. It was out of character for Alexander not to order for that long. On the first day, the general manager thought they might have been overreacting, but now even she couldn't ignore it anymore. They knew Alexander would not randomly stop ordering unless it was something more serious. Fuller was sure something was going on. Alexander was quite a dedicated customer, and he had conversations with all the staff. However, he doesn't talk much, still friendly and kind. Fuller said, "He never misses his order a day, so we know him." Not only did the staff think of him as a friend because of his kind and gentle nature, but they also considered him family. Alexander is that once-in-a-lifetime customer that all the employees respected and loved. He had almost become a part of them. The employees also knew that it was unlike him to take long trips without as little as a goodbye. They probably thought he had found a better pizza place. Alexander looked forward to serving him every day. When the thought popped into their mind that he may have found a new pizza place, they were not thrilled. Did they ever do anything wrong with Alexander? Or maybe he was starting to get tired of their food, but how would that be possible? But Alexander liked to explore a wide range of choices. There's an endless amount of options for pizza styles out there, almost too many to choose from. While Alexander was a regular customer, that does not mean he had a regular order as well. Alexander would frequently spice things up and order every item on the menu. He enjoyed trying out all the items on the Domino's menu. Whenever the staff created something new, they were eager for Alexander to give his feedback. He was like their taster. The workers might have tried to reach out to Alexander once to no avail, but they weren't giving up so soon. After weeks passed, Fuller decided they would try again. She assigned an employee to go and see what was going on with Alexander. Sarah sent Tracy Hamblin to get the job done. He seemed the closest to him. He was fit for the job. When Tracy drove over to Alexander's home, he walked to the front steps and saw the lights on inside. Hope blossomed inside of him. He had no idea what he would find, but he was delighted to be the one to do it. Alexander was one of the few customers who made friends with him. He owed him this visit. Tracy also wanted to be the one to go back with good news for his co-workers. As he noticed the light in Alexander's apartment, he was very optimistic, and his face lit up. This had to mean that Alexander was inside. But if he was home, then why hadn't he ordered all the while? He knocked on the door and waited for a response. He continued knocking on the door. After a few minutes, he waited for a little, but there was no response. Tracy tried to listen attentively for signs of movement, but got none. He decided to peep into Alexander's glass windows, and then he noticed that the TV was on. It was suspicious. He knocked a few more times. Alexander probably couldn't hear because of his TV volume. He spent 20 more minutes knocking, but he was met with silence. Tracy decided it was time to stop knocking. He was already getting funny glances from passing neighbors. There was another way. He took out his cell phone and began to ring him. His line was going through, but there was no response on the other end. When he had received no answer repeatedly, he began to be concerned. What could be wrong? He really should get angry for being ignored, but Tracy's worry was more significant than his anger. He couldn't get past the thought that Alexander was in danger. As he turned back to leave, he stopped in his tracks and remembered one time when Alexander had saved him from being fired. Tracy turned around. He wouldn't give up so soon. Fuller always seemed to know what to do. Now he was stunned. Fuller got back in control and suggested he call 911. Everyone working at Domino's had their fingers crossed when they heard the situation. Most offered to come over to help out, but they couldn't possibly leave their jobs and customers unattended. They all remained nervous. Tracy placed a call through to Fuller and explained the situation to her. He was met by silence. Her advice is hardly ever wrong. He sincerely hoped the situation wasn't as serious as he placed a 911 call. Tracy explained to the operator that there was a customer who regularly orders, but then didn't for 11 days. When he was asked to explain the situation more slowly, Tracy hadn't realized his voice had begun shaking. He took a deep breath and explained that this man had ordered pizza for the last 10 years, but he suddenly seemed to have disappeared into thin air. When Tracy ended the call, he was happy Fuller was on her way to overlook the situation. Transferred to the county sheriff's department, the police began a full investigation and headed straight to Alexander's home. Tracy could barely keep still, desperate to act, but knew he had to wait for law enforcement. When Officer Fuller arrived with backup, Tracy finally felt a glimmer of relief. They knocked on the door and called out Alexander's name repeatedly, but there was no response. On their second attempt, they heard a faint noise followed by a crash. Realizing the urgency, the police broke down the door. Inside, they found Alexander lying motionless on the floor, a vase shattered beside him. Paramedics immediately lifted him onto a stretcher. The sight of their beloved customer in such a helpless state shook everyone, especially Tracy, who nearly collapsed from the shock. Alexander was rushed to the hospital where doctors confirmed he had suffered a stroke. Fortunately, the paramedics had arrived just in time to stabilize him. The medical team noted that, had they been even a day later, it might have been too late. Alexander remained in a coma, and no one could determine how long he had been in that state. Neighbors admitted it had been some time since they last saw him. The Domino's staff, particularly Tracy, were credited with saving his life. If Tracy hadn't persisted, Alexander's condition might have gone unnoticed. As news of Alexander's survival spread, the Domino's team wanted to visit him in the hospital. Though their initial request was denied, they were eventually allowed in after a week. They brought flowers and words of encouragement, hoping their presence would aid his recovery. The visit was emotional, especially for Alexander, who wasn't used to being seen in a vulnerable state. Still, the staff reassured him that he could be himself around them. Though quiet at first, Alexander gradually became more responsive. He was later transferred to the hospital's rehabilitation center for further care. A spokesperson from Domino's headquarters praised the staff's actions, saying it reflected the company's commitment to building real relationships with customers. Their loyalty and attention likely saved a life, and the company encouraged all branches to foster similar compassion. This wasn't the first time Domino's employees had stepped up to help loyal customers, but it was one of the most widely shared. The story quickly spread nationwide, capturing the hearts of everyone who heard it. Sarah Fuller and the assistant manager were invited to appear on Good Morning America, where they recounted the events leading up to Alexander's rescue. Their story resonated deeply with audiences, highlighting the importance of simple acts of concern. To reward their heroism, the Domino's management surprised them with tickets to Captain America: Civil War. But the gratitude didn't stop there. They were also sent to the Domino's Worldwide Rally in Las Vegas, an annual corporate convention where top staff are honored. Their kindness was formally recognized, and they received the appreciation they truly deserved. The Marion County Sheriff personally thanked Tracy Hamblin for his swift actions and selfless decision to act. He was praised for putting someone else's well-being ahead of his own schedule and routine. As Alexander's condition improved, the Domino's team continued to visit. Their consistent support and care helped him feel more comfortable during recovery. Slowly, he regained strength and returned to his cheerful self. For Alexander, Domino's was no longer just his go-to pizza place. It had become something far more meaningful: his second family.